Hello and welcome to the Viking Code School demo for debugging in the browser. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to look at forms and tables. Each one of these videos in this demo is going to deal with something different that you might have to debug, having to do with HTML and CSS, and a few common gotchas that we're going to take a look at. We'll take a look at the first one right now. So we have two forms. Each one of these forms is displayed with a table, and this is a fairly common thing to do. You're not always going to use tables to display your forms, but for very simple tables and basic markup, it's not uncommon to use tables to display the inputs. But the point is that we have a form here that's displayed with a table. You can see that we have a normal submit button, and then we have another form here with a red submit button. And if we take a look at our styles, we have a class of my form, input type submit, background red. So we should be having two submit buttons that are both red, because if we take a look at our markup, both of these forms have a class of my form, and they both have submit buttons with a type of an input, a type of submit. So we should be getting red buttons for both of these. But let's take a look here. We're looking for an input that is nested under an element with a class of my form. Well, I can look at my markup and I can say, yes, this element is indeed inside form, and go back and forth as many times as I want, and it would most likely give me a lot of trouble because I'm looking at my markup and it looks right, but I can't see why. I can't determine why this might be happening. There's obviously something going on here. So debugging in the browser, we can right click and inspect the element, and that's going to bring up the actual markup that was rendered, the way things are rendered in the browser. And let's take a look at the first form here. So if I inspect this element, go to the submit button, what do we see here? Well, we have the table here that is wrapping our form, and here's our form, but where is it? It's not showing up anywhere in our markup. And further, it's actually being closed right away. Why is this? Because if the form is closed and the form is the parent element of the input, it stands to reason that, yeah, CSS is not finding an input with a type of submit nested under the form with a class of my form here, because it's closed and it's definitely outside. So when it gets rendered, it is outside. Well, why is that? And this has to do with tables. Tables are picky about the elements that you put inside them. If you try to put a form or some other kind of element inside the table, like this, directly inside, it's not going to work. It's going to be invalid, and it's going to close that tag immediately, and you're just going to get a whole lot of undesired behavior like this. So how do we handle this? We go back to our markup. Instead of putting the form inside the table, which is invalid and going to cause this immediate closing of the form, we wrap the table with the form. And that allows all of our inputs to be inside the form. But in this case, the table is not going to have a form inside it. So the form is not going to get closed. It's going to wrap the table entirely. And this is valid. This is going to work. So that is an example of one gotcha that you should watch out for. So the moral of the story is to wrap your tables with block elements like forms and don't try to put them directly inside the table.